And our student athletes, please identify yourselves and the outlets that you are with. That will help the viewers at home identify who you are as well. Coach Hafley is with us first. Who would like the first question from the room? Coach, we're going to go front row here, just to your left, right at the edge.
What's up, guys?
How are you, Coach?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. We know that this is the last season in the ACC of divisions, and then we'll switch to that 3-5-5 model. Having those permanent opponents, just what that means for you, and I know historically, going back to the old Big East, it makes a lot of sense what Boston College has now with Miami, Pitt, and Syracuse. So to speak to that last year divisions, and then looking forward to what the 3-5-5 is going to do for Boston College.
Well, first, I'm excited for this year. I think the Atlantic is going to be as good as it's been in a really long time. Very competitive, good, very well coached, good quarterbacks, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the division change. Get a chance to play some different teams. I mean, you get a chance to play Pittsburgh, who's, I mean, we're all the way up here, right? And we're constantly playing teams not around us, but to play Pitt every year when we were playing them once every 6 years. Same thing with Syracuse. I mean, we're playing them because they're in our division, but we should be playing Syracuse. And you get a chance to go to Miami. I mean, we have some kids like Zay from South Florida. I don't even know, Zay, if you even played at Miami in that stadium, right? So you get a chance to get down south a little bit and play a team that will be on the rise and compete down there. So I'm excited. And, you know, I'm not one big on why we play. Let's just go play football. So whoever they put on our schedule, let's play. And if we get to mix it up and play some different teams, even better, right? Like, let's bring Miami out a night game, hopefully like late in December when it's cold. Let's bring them to Boston and get our fans a chance to see some other schools. But I'm all for the change. I'm really excited about it. But we got to play this year first.
Coach, on your left, third row.
WRL.com. Coach, for as long as I can remember, I've looked at Boston College rosters and seen big, experienced offensive lines. And this year, as you look at the roster, just 2 returning starters, and one is Joey, your tight end. Are you at a point where you could reload in the offensive line, or realistically, is there going to be a little bit of a learning curve replacing those 4 really experienced guys that left?
Well, one, they're still going to be big. We got some big guys up front, but there will definitely be some inexperience. You know, we lose all our starters. You know, it's unfortunate. Christian Mahogany, our right guard, who we believe could have been the first guard picked and a first-round pick if he had played up to what we thought he could, tore his ACL. He's doing well, and we'll be excited to have him back. But we'll be young. But we got a bunch of guys competing for jobs that have a chip on their shoulder, have learned from some really good players like Zion Johnson and those guys, and I think they're going to play with an edge. And are they going to have some growing pains? Yeah, they probably will. But we won't make that an excuse. We have to coach them well, and we have to figure out quickly what they do well and let them do it, and let them play fast and physical. So I'm excited about that group, and then I'm really excited about the future of that group, because next year at this time, we're going to have a really experienced line, and hopefully Christian Mahogany's back in there feeling great. But we got good players on offense, and I'm excited to see what that offensive line can do.
Coach, from the podium, while BC outscored its opponents in the fourth quarter last year, it seems that too much of a hole was dug in the third quarter throughout the season. How do you correct that moving forward?
That's a good question, and that's one thing we looked at a little bit. You know, we got to come out of halftime and figure things out a little bit quicker. We got to find a way to get our guys out of the locker room quicker, more ready to play. But I'm not going to make that bigger than it is, to be very honest with you. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does, and I thank you. We'll go back to the first row to your left.
Coach, having the new offensive coordinator, John McNulty, just what you can say about what he brings and what you saw in him and his vision for the offense that made sense for what you want to do at BC.
Yeah, John and I were together when I was with the Bucks. John was the quarterback coach, I was the DB coach. So I know what type of person he is, what type of man he is, and that's really important to me. I've also coached against him when I was at Pitt, and he was in the Big East at the same time. What was important for me is, what I've learned as a head coach is, I have a vision of what I want the offense to look like. And I feel like in my first 2 years, to be very honest with you, I focus too much on the defense. And I think I've failed as a head coach to make sure that my vision on what I want the offense to look like stays that way. And I interviewed a lot of guys, and John's vision and my vision, they really matched up. And without getting into too much detail on what it's going to look like, there'll be some similarities of what we did in the past. But then we got to find out what guys like this can do really well, and we got to get guys like Zay the ball. And we got to make sure that Phil is protected, and we got to make sure Phil is doing what he does best. So I'm really excited about John being here and seeing where we can take the offense. And again, do I think we played well enough on offense last year? We don't, and that's my fault. And I need to do a better job as a head coach in making sure my vision stays intact throughout the year.
Let's go back to Bob Holliday to your left in the third row.
Coach Clausen said this morning he doesn't ever remember a time when every single team in the division returned its quarterback. I want to ask you about your guy. Of course, you lost Phil very early to an injury last year. What does he bring? What makes him special? And let's expand to include Zay. What about the two of them really stretch a defense?
Well, let's talk about Phil first. And I've got a lot of questions on Phil today, which he deserves to be asked a lot of questions for. He's a great player and he's a great person. Last year at this time, everybody was talking about Phil in year 2, all the things that he can accomplish, and being one of the top guys in college football, one of the top players in the country. Phil played one game healthy last year, one against Colgate, and he didn't have to do too much. No disrespect to Colgate, but the game got out of hand, and we didn't throw it around like we were throwing it 50 times a game his first year when he lit it up. Phil goes down with a freak hand injury, falling down on the sideline in week 2, and I was told Phil was out for the year. So everybody understands what type of person he is, what type of quarterback he is. He got cleared by the doctor to play physically. Now, that didn't mean he was ready to play. I was told he had 50% grip strength in his throwing hand, and we're getting ready to play a night game on a short week against Virginia Tech, and he comes in my office and he tells me he wants to play. That says a lot about Phil, because there's a lot of guys that, one, wouldn't want that tape to get out, right? He's this hyped up guy, he can barely grip a ball and throw it down the field. 2, he hasn't practiced. But he comes back and he puts the team before himself with 50% grip strength, barely practicing. We beat Virginia Tech on a night game in our red bandana game. The next week we played Georgia Tech, and I think he had 500 yards by himself. I think he had 5 touchdowns. Then he gets beat up a little bit in our Florida State. Not a little bit. We didn't protect him very well. And then he has the flu going into the Wake Forest game. Doesn't practice, but still plays. If I'm an NFL GM or an NFL coach and I've been in those meetings, that tells you everything you need to know about Phil. You guys can turn on the tape and watch him play, but kids aren't built like that anymore. He's tough. He cares about his team. And when he gets out on the field, there's nothing that phases him. And Zay, I think everybody saw the story of Zay. Zay's another story of what's right in college football right now. Everybody wants to talk about all these things that are wrong: NIL, transfer portal, conference realignment. We need good stories like Phil, like I just told you, stories like Zay, who had the opportunity to go get a ton of money to leave as he's getting phone calls from other schools, but instead calls me and decides to stay because he cares about his team, because he cares about a real degree, and because he wants to finish what he started. We need to get this guy the ball more. I told him he's not going to be able to go out after games this year. He's going to be so damn tired. He's going to catch punts, he's going to return punch, and he's going to touch the ball over and over again. And that's my job as a head coach. And I get passionate when I talk about those two guys because they are different, and there's not enough of that right now in college football.
Coach, with that, we're going to stay on the left, probably the 7th row, if you would please stand. Thank you.
Sure will. Candace Cooper, Locked on ACC. Coach Hafley, the first couple of years have been a little difficult. How much pressure are you putting on yourself this season, and what have you seen from this team that gets you excited about this year?
Well, I would say the first 2 years have been awesome. First year, we're dealing with COVID. We were picked last in the conference. We win more games in the ACC than they had since 2009. Last year, we start off 4-0. We beat an SEC team at home for the first time in forever. Everybody rushes. The place is going crazy. And then we're hit with adversity. And we lose 4 in a row. And no one thought we were going to a bowl game, but instead, we win the next 2 games. To me, those are all learning experience that you can only get by actually going out there and coaching and putting it out there on the line. And those 2 wins and going through that adversity, they made me a better coach, and they made us a better team. I don't feel any pressure. I go out and I tell them the same thing. They shouldn't feel pressure on game day. The pressure's during the week. How hard am I going to work to prepare myself so when I get on the field Saturday to coach, I'm fearless. And I get into a special place where nothing's going to faze me and nothing's going to faze them no matter what happens, because I know that we put in the work. So that's where the pressure comes from. It comes from within, because we want to win as a team and we want to win together. So I can't wait for this year. I got a couple more days on vacation and then I'm ready to roll.
Coach, as a follow-up to that from the podium, are you finding that you're in some type of normal rhythm, given all that has happened over the last couple of years? Are you finally settling in?
Yeah, this year was a little strange for me because it came time to May, my first real May, and all the coaches were going on the road, and I was like, what am I going to do? I'm not allowed to go out recruiting. So this was my first real off season. It was my first real June where we could have camps, where we could have visitors. So yeah, I feel like it is a little bit normal. There's no more cardboard cutouts. I actually saw fans when I ran out this year. But I'm excited. So hopefully it stays that way.
Was that excitement, any of that dampened knowing that your final game of the season was a 31-point loss? Is that a pall over the program during the offseason?
No. I'm never going to judge a season on one game, just like I'm never going to judge a game on one play. You look at the body of work. 6-6 is not good enough. We know that. We know we can be better. I know I can be better, because it definitely all starts with me. We use that as motivation, and we learn from it. And we're going to play with a little bit more edge to us this year, and I'm going to do a better job coaching the team.
Dan has your last question, Coach, right in front of you.
Dan, you got all the questions today.
Well, Coach, I care about what you're doing at Boston College, obviously. So when you look back on that a couple years ago, what brought you there? Hindsight 2020, what was it about this job, this opportunity, this school that made you feel like that was the right fit for you to be a leader at this time?
That is a good question. I just left. I left the 49ers and I went to Ohio State, and I thought I'd be there for a while. We had a really good year, played good defense, and then I had a couple of opportunities. One was location. I wanted my family to live in a great place. Boston's a great place. My family's very important to me. Great school system. Academics. I spent a lot of time in the NFL. A lot of guys don't make it, and a lot of guys 2-3 years they're not in the NFL, and they don't have a good degree, and they never had internships, and they never had jobs. I want to change lives. Whether or not these guys wind up playing in the NFL with the degrees they get and the internships we give them, I'm going to change their life, because they're going to have a great job. I wanted to go somewhere where I didn't have to cheat. I didn't have to cut corners. I didn't have to sleep by my phone and get phone calls in the middle of the night. I want to be around good people. And when I researched BC, and I knew about BC, I grew up in New Jersey. And I felt like we could be better, and we could recruit better, we could play better. And that's no disrespect to anybody who's coached before, because they did a good job. But I came because I thought we could elevate it, doing it the right way with really good people. You win with good people, and that was so important to me, to do things the right way. And then meeting Father Leahy and guys like Father Jack, and at the time the AD, it was a perfect fit for me and my family. And then I had the opportunity, after both years, people called. And people ask me all the time. I've only been here for 2 years, and I already get questions. What do you mean I'm not going to stay? We got great kids. We got an unbelievable school. We got unbelievable leadership. Our staff has been awesome. We've recruited well. It is an awesome place, and we're going to win, but we're going to do it the right way. So hopefully that answers your question. I probably ranted a little bit on that one. But thanks for asking the 3 questions, too.
Coach, thank you. You can switch places with Josh. We'll bring up Josh DeBerry now to spend about 5 minutes. Josh, if you need to, you can push that microphone up just a little bit. Questions for our DB here this afternoon. Josh, we're going to get the microphone to about the 5th row to your left. Be the gentleman in the teal or turquoise shirt.
Hey, John Eads with Orange Fizz. You saw a lot of time at Nickelback last year. How do you think your game translates to the professional level?
I've seen a lot of time at nickel. I'm trying to get a little more corner and nickel this year to show that I can do a little bit of both. I feel like my game translates. I can play whatever. I can come up in the run. I can guard the slide on the outside. So just doing whatever this team needs for me to win is what I'm down to do.
Josh, from the podium here, what's the difference between Josh DeBerry, the freshman, and now Josh DeBerry, the senior?
The biggest thing I've been working on is my leadership. being more of a vocal leader in terms of not just being the guy that people look at as being the guy that can get on somebody, that can love somebody up, doing it both on and off the field in terms of workouts and camp and then leading up to the season. So just mainly working on my leadership and feel like I grew a lot in that aspect from freshman year.
Third row to your left.
Bob Holliday, WRL.com, Josh. You guys led the ACC last year in pass defense, but you're only 13th in interception return yards. Now you got your entire secondary back. Can you guys get more mileage out of those picks?
Yeah, most definitely. We're going to get a lot more mileage this year. We're looking to put some points on the board in terms of a couple pick sixes, some from myself, some from the other guys. And, yeah, we're going to most definitely get a little bit more mileage in terms of on those picks.
On the left-hand side, Josh, young lady standing.
Candace Cooper, Locked On ACC. We've talked a lot about Phil and Zay and the offense, but Boston College's defense doesn't normally get that kind of shine. How do you feel like the defense has done in this offseason to match the energy of the offense going into this year?
It's very competitive in terms of our workouts with the offense versus the defense, and we're used to not getting a lot of the shine as defense tends to not to in football, but I mean, we've used that as fuel, nothing but fuel. We're looking to be the best defense in the conference in the country this year in terms of every aspect, not just passing defense. We're looking to be the best in sacks and all that other stuff. So we've been using that as fuel. We got a lot of new guys coming in, a lot of leadership stepping up. So we've been using that as fuel, and we're just looking to go straight up from there.
Josh, back to the front row to your left, and Dan once again.
Josh, just what you can say about what it is at Boston College for you. Like you said, pass defense, the team has been very successful, but you hear Coach talk about putting it on himself. When you have a leader like that takes the responsibility, what does that mean to you as a player, and how does that kind of define what the Eagles are?
I feel like Coach Half defines what we are. It's like what you see is what you get. I mean, he's a great leader on and off the field. He helps us be better, and that just helps guys buy in. Like you got guys like Phil and Zay willing to come back for another year, even though they really don't have to. And that's just what type of team we have. That's what type of head coach we have, and that's just Coach Half for you. And we're just bought in, and I'm bought into him. I'm bought into everything he has to offer. So yeah, that just shows how great of a coach and leader he is.
Josh, we'll go back to John again here on the left side.
Hey, John with Orange Fizz again. Your defense is ranked towards the bottom of the ACC in pressure rate the last 2 years. Are you guys doing things this offseason to get better with that, or is the approach kind of to play more conservative and let the offense dictate what you do as a defense?
No, we definitely are more in terms of looking at the D-line and their leadership. You got guys like Marcus Valdez. He's been there a long time. He's stepped up as a leader, and you got guys like Sheeta Salah. We got guys like Booz coming back. So we got a lot of firepower coming back, and they've used that as nothing but fuel, and they want to get more than anybody else. So yeah, we've definitely used that as fuel, and that's been good for us this year.
Josh, thank you. You can switch places with Zay. We'll spend about 5 minutes with our senior wide receiver. First questions for Zay from inside the room. Zay, I'll ask it from the podium. You always seem to have a smile. Why is that? Where do you get that from?
I think I get it from my family, my brothers and sisters. We all just enjoy. Like, we was just enjoying each other when we was young and just kept a smile on our face with everything we did.
We'll get the microphone over to Dan, and then I'm going to follow up that question with another one here in a second.
Zay, you made that decision to come back, and like you've heard your coach say, you didn't have to do it. You just heard one of your teammates say that. Why come back to Boston College, and what is it about 2022 that you wanted to once again line up with the same guys?
I mean, it was a couple of things. Me and Phil, I felt like we didn't finish what we started, and I wanted to get my degree. My dad wanted me to get my degree, and I felt that was a big part. And I just felt like I owed it to the program to come back and try to give the program something that we have in a long time.
Zay, back to the left side, fourth row.
Hey Zay, John Eads with Orange Fizz. In 2020, your team had a really good tight end, Hunter Long, who kind of helped this offense explode. You kind of have a question mark in that position. I know you got a transfer from Notre Dame, but what is the difference between having a prolific tight end like that, and how does that help this offense when you have that kind of a presence and help kind of take the load off of you?
I mean, me and Hunter, it made it easier for me to get open and run routes. But this year, I feel like George Takis is a new tight end. I feel like he'll do a great job of getting open. He's fast, he's athletic. So I believe in George the same way I believed in Hunter.
Back of the room, left side, Zay, young lady standing.
I'm Katrina Sackler with Sports and Culture Media. Coach had touched on kind of upgrading on the offensive side, coaching wise. How do you, what do you know that Coach expects from you, and how are you looking to kind of improve on that on your side of the ball?
I think Coach expects me to become more of a leader and lead the wideout group, because we have a young wideout group. I think I'm the oldest in the group, so just lead by example, and I feel like everybody will follow along.
Zay, left side, third row.
Bob Holliday, WRL.com. Coach talked about we got to get the ball to Zay more. What's your excitement level about that statement? And part two, Phil has the ability to extend plays. You have the ability to improvise on routes. Talk about the potential dynamism of that combination.
I mean, we both had like the ability to make big plays happen at any time. Phil can run the ball, he can throw the ball, and I feel like the more I touch the ball, the more things happen, like better things happen for our team. So me getting the ball, I feel like it'll be a good thing, and it'll open up everybody else. It'll open up the run game, it'll open up Jalen, it'll open up everybody, I feel like.
Zay, from the podium, you mentioned earlier that you seem to get your smile from your family, your brothers and sisters. You're the 11th of 14 kids. Was it hard to find your identity?
No, because none of us were shy. All of us just did what we did, just have fun.
You're the oldest of your unit now on the field. You're the oldest in football, but still you're the youngest in your family. Is there any weird conflict there for you? Have you learned one from the other, or learned from the other?
Being the oldest on the receiver room just comes with like leadership, and everybody look up to you, especially when you're one of the best players. Everybody look up to you for leadership and what to do, and you got to lead that group.
Thank you. Right side, very back of the room, sir, if you'll stand. Thank you.
Luke Winslow, Clemson Sports Talk. Zay, for Boston College fans, when it's all said and done, what do you want them to think of when they hear or remember your name?
That I was a BC man. I was loyal to the program, and I did everything I could to help the program prevail and like reach a spot that it couldn't back when it was hard. That's all I got.
Zay, left side, he'll stand because he understands the rule of it. One of our play-by-play guys inside the league.
Zay, Don Munson with Clemson Athletic Properties. One of the great traditions that you all have came out of tragedy, the red bandana game. Coach may be rocking I'm 60 now, Coach, I can't see that far. What does that red bandana game mean to the program? Clemson will get another taste of it when we come there in October.
I mean, Wells, he was the guy that was in the building. He sacrificed his life to save others, and I feel like we all sacrificed something playing college football and leaving our families to go play football, and like dedication, what we do. And Wells was a fireman, and he always wanted to be a fireman. He played sports at BC, and he had a chance to go save others, and that's what we did. So I'm happy to represent him with my guys and just go out there and play.
Zay and Don, thank you for that exchange. Zay, you can trade places with Phil, and we'll spend our last 5 minutes with our redshirt senior quarterback. We will get our first question for Phil. Nick, about the third row, fourth row, I guess.
Hey, Phil, Corey Christen, DK Pittsburgh Sports. You got massive praise there from Coach about your work ethic after playing just one game healthy. Tell me about what that road's been like for you in rehab and what your mentality is coming into this season.
Well, this off season has been great. I'm fully healthy, so I'm all good to go. But it was a little bit tough there last season. At the end, Coach touched on it, like not being fully healthy and trying to grit my way through it. I think I learned a lot during that time, and I try to make the most of it, but overcoming that adversity has strengthened me.
Stay on your left-hand side, gentleman standing.
Hey, Phil. John Eads with Orange Fizz. Kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but only 5% of starts back on the offensive line. You lost an All-American to an injury this spring. What's your confidence level in the front five to protect you a little bit better this year?
I'm fully confident in them. It's not ideal, but they've got a legacy to carry. They understand the great O-line play that has come from BC, and they're all recruited to play here. So these guys are ready. I think they're all ready to step up, and I'm excited for them. Like, it will be fun bringing along these new offensive linemen, showing them the ins and outs of the game, like when we're actually on the field playing. So I'm really excited, and I hope that we have a great camp.
Stay on that fourth row, gentlemen standing.
Hey Phil, John Dales, WAER. I know you already played against them back in 2020, but do you have the Notre Dame game circled on the schedule a little bit just because of had gone there for 2 years?
Definitely. Excited for that one. I haven't been back since the transfer, so that's going to be a special one.
Still on the left-hand side, third row. Bob, microphone's behind you.
Bob Holliday, WRL.com. You're exceptionally extending plays, and this year you may have to extend plays a little more often as your offensive line learns the tradition you talked about. Where did that come from? And when you're extending a play, what's your first priority? In addition to finding Zay.
I would say it comes from like playing razzle-dazzle in the backyard and just, I don't know, playing around, being young. There's a certain like natural feel to the game once it breaks down that just comes to you. And I think that's a big part of the game, and it's really tough on defenses. They can have the perfect coverage, the perfect play set up, but then the play breaks down and you're able to make something with it. It's extremely frustrating. And then we have the playmakers to do it. Zay and the other guys, once they get loose, it's really hard on defenses.
Phil, question from the podium. Describe your head coach using one word.
One word.
Coach is just as interested in that one word, it seems like, too.
Passionate about the game. I think he understands what it takes to make it as a college football coach. He's put in the work through years. I know because he being from Pittsburgh, he lived at someone's house. What would you call it? Like a bar almost. As a GA, like he really grinded his way up. He loves this game. He loves everything right about the game. So Coach Hafley's been the best, and that's infectious. His love for the game.
Thank you, Boston College. Good luck this season. We'll excuse you the rest of your duties for the rest of the day. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Folks, Syracuse is due up next at 2:30.